What happens when the web team drifts apart? What happens when they lose sight of shared goals? Everyone optimizes their own chart. Each role maximizes their own controls. Hear this story of a new stakeholder who asks for a seemingly simple tweak and is answered by a chain of scolders, each too siloed to find what they all seek. This session will examine dynamics present in nearly all web teams trying to balance many different metrics without clear guidance and without crying. Before you get lost in the web ops weeds, navigate the hierarchy of needs. Hello and welcome to the dramatic and poetical tale of the website hierarchy of needs. If you couldn't tell from the session description and the literal prologue written as a sonnet in iambic pentameter, this session is gonna be different. I do like to commonly start presentations by letting you know up top what you're gonna get. This is the first time I have had a literal prologue at the top, but this is the story that you are about to hear. We will meet a new stakeholder at fictional Demo University, a director of alumni giving, starting that job. They will meet the team that has been working on the university's website for some time. Director of communications, designer, developers, systems administrator, and this group that has been working on the website for some time has drifted apart from one another. And we'll see what forces drive that drift and discuss a bit how they can recover. I want to tell this hyper-specific, fictionalized story as a way of getting at what I think is a broader truth, that many in the web development community, especially in higher education, feel somewhat stuck between the present and the future. In the future, we're reaching towards an idealized state where we could claim our web presence fully supports the mission of our institution. And if I can believe a stat that I heard in a previous session, actually for about 4 out of 10 universities, they're already in this ballpark. So great. I am a bit skeptical of how true that is. In any case, we're coming from a past where just getting on the web at all is an accomplishment. The web has only been around about 3.5 decades. The web started in higher education. Universities were the pioneers here, and yet so many university web teams feel stuck in a present where even if in the best case scenario you've satisfied all of the stakeholder requests with features and third-party integrations, even in that best-case scenario where you do it all, it still feels like a mess. How do we get to a cleaner future? I haven't yet introduced myself here. My name's Steve Persch, Director of Developer Relations at Pantheon. My colleague Seb has seen this photo of the Twister Man before. I have used Seb as a fake audience volunteer in this presentation. He asked me if I had props, and no, I don't have any props, and still this will be one of the more unique presentations you perhaps have seen. So even after this silly presentation last year in Atlanta, even after representing WordPress and the Gutenberg editor, doing my best wrestling villain, they still invited me back. So yes, this presentation by the title has to relate to the hierarchy of needs. The basic idea here is that there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs for people. We're mammals. We need food, water, we need sleep in order to do anything else. If we don't have that baseline need, we really can't focus on anything else. Moving above physiological needs, we have a need for safety, financial safety, physical safety, emotional safety. If we feel safe, well then we can perhaps focus on where do we belong? How do we fit in amongst our friends, our family, our coworkers? And then do we feel good about where we fit in society? Do we have a sense of self-esteem, self-respect? And then perhaps can we reach full self-actualization? This isn't a perfect way of explaining human behavior, somewhat problematic, but I'll take this as a rough outline for organizing needs and then apply that to websites. I wrote this metaphor well before LLMs were taking off. I don't want websites to self-actualize, I don't think. I don't want that to be the top. But websites do exist for a reason. Your professional website has a job to do. In a minute or two, I'll explain further what different types of conversions a professional website might exist to pursue. But there is a conversion, some goal, perhaps multiple goals that a website has. If you know where the conversion point is, what you're aiming to at the top, you can more appropriately set the foundation. Even in the serverless era, websites do depend on servers somewhere. They need electricity, they need bandwidth, they need the temperature to be just right. Otherwise, your servers are going to have problems. Is your website going to be stable? Are the operating systems up to date? Is this website going to fall over if it gets a too large traffic spike? And then, is our website in compliance with all the guidelines, rules, and regulations that it needs to be in compliance with? These bottom layers are kind of asking, is the site broken or wrong? Like, especially in a university context, if you put the wrong shade of blue, you might get an email from someone you've never met saying, hey, that is off-brand. Ideally, though, a web team can focus more at the top of this hierarchy. They can ask, is our website actually any good? Is it of quality? And depending on how you define quality, you might feel like, oh yeah, we do have a good quality website, and somehow it isn't getting us the conversions we need. So those are separate layers. So we also have a rough mapping here between the people in the story, the characters we're about to meet, and the layers of the website hierarchy of needs. I want to emphasize that this is not a hierarchy of people. I think that's part of what makes website operations enjoyable and fun and challenging. There's not one person in this chain necessarily who can say, I'm the boss, we're doing it my way. In fact, in the real world versions of this team, any person in this chain might be the highest paid person, might be the most senior person. It's going to vary team to team, university to university. That's the hard part, the fun part. Let's find out. Let's now meet Alexei. Meet the new addition to Demo U. Alexei is starting his first day as the director of alumni giving. He's settling into his new office, pulls out his piping thermos, pours coffee with purpose, boots his Microsoft Surface, his personal Surface. No time to wait for the surplus laptop IT purchased. Earnest Alexei loads spreadsheets certain he'll search out some surfeit spending. Surfing through Excel cells, he writes notes in cursive. He circles where the cash balance worsens. His predecessor, a careless person, couldn't raise funds, and his chances furnace. Alexei wordlessly wonders how to, 1 hour into a new job, work it so he can rise with no disturbance. Maybe parties for alumni nurses? As he jots ideas on sticky notes, Demo University's president knocks on Alexei's open office door. Eager Alexei taps the touch screen, stumbling through his explication, but he can see her attention's waning. She has no interest in the findings Alexei has spread across sheets and thoughts disjointed. She cuts him off, and she says, make a big impact with the website first. You must double alumni donations measured through Demo U's website, and soon. That's your top priority. Do that first. The president smiles forcedly and leaves. Deflated, Alexei loads the website. It seems fine. Nothing noteworthy. Fine. It loads fast enough. It looks fine enough. How fast can you double from fine to good? Wait. On websites of peer institutions, giving is in every header menu. Alexi has a clear challenge for sure, but the answer seems more than simple. Just add giving to the header menu, and Alexi can tackle bigger things. Spoiler alert, it is not going to be that simple for Alexi. Now, I did not put the president of the university on this diagram here, but isn't that always the case with website projects? There's always someone higher up that you didn't know was going to swoop in and have an opinion on your work. There's another thing I did not tell you. Before the beginning of this story, something happened among the web team. They finally completed the big, never-ending redesign, relaunch project. It took forever, but they did it. They converted their old WordPress site to a new style WordPress site with Gutenberg blocks. I should say here, since we're at EvolveDrupal, that I did first write this story for a Drupal context. There was a team migrating from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, a similar big cultural break that might take forever, but the iambic pentameter version is WordPressified. I hope you'll allow that. So, in these big, never-ending redesign, relaunch projects, a lot of things are fraught. Even if it goes mostly okay, you still need to rethink every plugin or every module for the new site. You need to question every element on every page of the new site. You need to ensure that the new site works for every device, for every stakeholder. All the while, you are probably ignoring pretty much everything about the old site. And actually, it's not the old site. I hope everyone in the room enjoys the theatrical presentation here, but there's a good chance that for someone in this room, this is the most important bullet point in the whole presentation. A linguistic trick we play on ourselves when we start these big, never-ending redesign, relaunch projects. We start to think, oh, I'm working on the new site. The old site can take a back seat. No, it is the current website. As long as people are visiting that site and it is serving traffic, especially when it's serving 100% of your traffic, it is not the old site until it is entirely offline. But that is the trap that this team, like so many teams, fell into. And now, 1 week after getting that relaunch finally out the door, they're all somewhat isolated from one another. So let's now meet the next person. Changing the header menu requires politics. He'll have to convince Sarah, the director of communications. Sarah's family dates back to the first brick affixed to Demo University's foundation. Her family probably fixed her admission and employment, so thinks everyone she meets. She fears wants to evict her from this job she actually earned by driving the clicks. Yes, she's surrounded by some intergenerational picks. There's her great-grandfather's 50-yard kick to win the Grand Bowl in 1906. But Sarah's on her iMac, deep in the mix, looking at pages, asking what to nix. A relaunch fumbled like a bundle of sticks. Now she's thinking through SEO tricks. This job's more than Google Analytics. Emails pile up from all of her critics. They backseat drive, asking dumb questions while clocks tick. Have you heard of TikTok? Gosh, that's where kids these days record their antics. No wonder her teeth chew so much Chantix. Find new tactics or become a relic. Then Alexi knocks, looking angelic. I just had an idea, well, kind of. Alexi decides to just spit it out. We need to add giving to the menu, the header menu that's on every page. Sarah's impressed at the gall, the gumption, to make this request his first impression. Alexi is clearly up to something. But can it be done without regression? Sarah knows header menu space ain't cheap. If the prior alum director did his job, it'd be in that menu for keeps. Now will it squeeze in and not break the grid? Signed in, Sarah edits the menu fast, but oh no. It does that thing where you have one line of links and then add another last. Now, 2 lines wrapped look broke in half. How can they resolve this simple, small bug? Let's see what happens and who else will meet when we crack the hood, look under the rug, and find just how deep the hole need be dug. We are going to have to dig all the way to the bottom of the pyramid, which is barely visible on this projector, but believe me, it is somewhat there. All right, so this director of alumni giving and director of communications, they should be talking about conversions. Is the website actually performing? Unfortunately, they are getting dragged further and further down the hierarchy, but they should be talking about, is our website actually doing its job? At Pantheon, we like to break down the idea of a professional website having a job to do the 5 broad categories. In the center here, we've got Pantheon's own website. If you visit pantheon.io, you will quickly figure out we would like you to talk to a salesperson. Or perhaps try out our dashboard, get a free trial account, and then perhaps convert through our dashboard to a paid plan. The conversion, the monetization, doesn't happen directly on our website. Of course, there are some websites that are monetizing directly. E-commerce. There are some websites where the monetization happens because every single page view is serving ads. And the more pages that get viewed, the more ads get served, and money is made, and hooray. Perhaps the website itself is an advertisement, and you want the websites to be seen by as many people as possible, all over the state, the country, the world, what have you. Perhaps you're trying to bring back the same group of people over and over again to the website. Now, why are the higher education websites so darn complicated? I think it's because they are trying to get at least 4, if not all 5 types of conversions. In some of the presentations today, I've heard about, what is the situation of the junior in high school who's evaluating whether or not they want to attend this university? In higher education culture, that is not called lead generation, but much of the tactics used by a university, used by website professionals, will look a whole lot like lead generation. You might want those juniors in high school to come to football games, buy football tickets, buy sweatshirts. You might want them to know about the cutting-edge research done at your university. You might want to maximize unique users' reach because actually you'd like the whole world to know about the cutting-edge research done at your university. Once students enroll, well then there's online learning portals, and you want the students coming to those online portals again and again. Now the only one that I think is questionable for a higher education is advertising revenue, because I have never seen, to my recollection, like one of those Taboola chum box advertisements on an EDU. But higher education homepages still kind of function as a series of advertising slots. When I started working in higher education, jQuery Cycle and jQuery Slideshow was all the rage. And it was basically a question of who has enough institutional clout to get their thing in the homepage slider. So even if it's not actual ads, the operations you need on the web team side to execute a higher education homepage still takes on practically all of the complexity of all 5 types of conversions. No wonder it's so hard. No wonder relationships can get strained. No wonder it's hard to define what does quality even mean for a higher education site. Let's now meet Eduardo. At a coffee shop just south of Sarah, we find Eduardo, the senior designer, softly sipping espresso, taking pause. The caffeine hits, and his mind slowly thaws. Feeling raw from endless tweaks and tickets that gnawed at his soul, yet weren't his to fix, pre-dawn phone buzzes of screenshotted bugs talked over in meetings like he lost his lungs. In the week since the relaunch, he's had to relearn how and when to relax his jaw. He nearly fell into Gutenberg's maw as the relaunch spun wildly, pitch and yaw. Eduardo has a new self-imposed law. Draw first. No phone, no screens. First, he must draw. Every morning, he brawls with blocks again. But he's in charge when it's paper and pen. When he's done, he'll show WordPress who's the boss. He'll win the next round, no matter the cost. Then, in walks Sarah, relieved to find Ed. His teeth grind, and his stomach turns in dread. Sarah relays the menu thingy, and it's clear she wants a quick guarantee that Ed will design a nice fix shortly. But Ed thinks, this is how you come to me? Our first convo in the relaunched debris. Urgent pleas from an unfit appointee. Ed is fed up with these petty bourgeoisie. He has no advanced degree, but he's got more guts than these PhDs with names on the marquee who love to quote Trotsky while they're brown-nosing a trustee. How can I prove that they can just trust me? Is what he thinks, and again leaves unsaid. He takes out his laptop, still seeing red. Sarah hovers, Ed glares. Pull up a chair. Ed taps the tab key. You want more links there? Wait. Tap, 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 tab. The focus is stuck. Here we go. This right here is just our luck. Ed says, I don't know all the legalese. Let me think before you interrupt me. We can't slide on accessibility, says Sarah, fearing lawsuit inquiries. Yeah, I know, says Ed, now the assignee of problems bigger than menu entries. How did things get so tense between these two? Quality is really hard to pin down for the world of websites, especially in higher education when there are so many competing demands. In fact, quality is hard to pin down, period. The day before I first delivered this iambic pentameter version of this presentation, I got to visit the Smithsonian and see their exhibit on Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a book not so much about Zen and not so much about motorcycle maintenance either. Like the actual plot, yes, it involves a motorcycle road trip, but it's about a man recovering from a psychological break because he was trying to define the word quality. In the world of the motorcycle, he saw quality as defined by the mechanic's view of the motorcycle. Is it engineered well? And the rider's view, the romantic view, as he calls it. And this book posits that human beings would be better off if we could unite those two sides, the mechanic's view of quality of the motorcycle and the rider's view of quality of the motorcycle. Now, whether or not you buy into that premise and its implications on thousands of years of philosophy, just on the mechanics side, if we go to the world of websites, we have had endless subdivision of website mechanics. We now are in a world where the mechanics working on the front wheel or the front end of a website barely talk to the mechanics talking on the back wheel or the engine of the website motorcycle. I'm now lost in the metaphor, but you see how we could end up in trouble if we never look at the website as a whole. I would not trust myself to ride a motorcycle if I knew the mechanics working on it only worked on parts in isolation and never looked at the whole. Without that view of the whole, we're going to have a very hard time pinning down quality, and we're also going to have a hard time even with compliance. So let's now meet our front-end developer. Meet Eleanor, the front-end specialist. Well-equipped with her MacBook Air lifted high above a standard standing desk with monitors splitting JavaScript snippets. Stacked, overflowing, VS Code going, NPM installed, Webpack is showing, she was right all along. Gutenberg, gone. Now it's clear to her where things went all wrong. Retreated now, she feels less defeated. She's in her happy place, with no WordPress, just the components, isolated, clean. Now she can make sense of what it all means. As her fingers dance together upon the cherry switches, she quickly catches Ed's eyes as he rounds cubicle corners. He sent no slacks. Why invade her quarters? She takes off her pink AirPod Max headphones, pausing playback of Dancing on My Own. She quickly complains, I was in the zone. Ed relays the problems. Now they're not alone. Eleanor closes Storybook and signs into WordPress and sees a sign of hope. The plugin supplying the header has an accessibility update. Yay! Ed says, wonderful, so we're good here, right? Eleanor says, I'm sorry, maybe nope. Looks like we also have security updates to apply. We need those today. Ed doesn't understand. It's just WordPress. Update the stuff. That's your job too. No, says Elle, I'm afraid things might regress. Nick does updates. I'll get this in his queue. Nick, the backend dev, isn't at his desk. Luckily, Eleanor knows where to check. The problems with this site keep on stacking. Links, headers, lawsuits, and now risks of hacking. So having some compliance concerns. In a university, you're going to have people with job titles like compliance officer, and they will, through some mechanism, ask people in designer or developer types of roles, is our website secure? And you're going to have other people, perhaps people like the director of communications, asking questions like, is every web page on brand? These two would love to be able to just say yes. They're very passionate, smart professionals. They want to just say yes. And still, it is difficult to do that. Often these two could say, well, we have designed an on-brand WordPress child theme, and every single site is supposed to implement that child theme. Same could go in Drupal. But do we know that every site is actually doing that? That is much harder to verify. So what do you do? I think one thing you can do is start by more quickly catching the things that your team has defined as wrong. In my previous job, when I spent all day, every day looking at Drupal code in PHP Storm, I got very good and very fast at catching where there were spaces when there shouldn't be spaces. This is an example from the WordPress coding standards. WordPress has opinions as to whether or not you put spaces in between the square brackets and what's inside the square brackets. And I don't look at code that much anymore, so I haven't fully internalized it. But robots, I'm not saying AI, dumb computers are very good, very fast at catching this sort of thing. I feel silly over the fact that in my previous job, I spent hours talking about this stuff with my coworkers. Now, I am responsible for Pantheon's documentation site, and if I or one of my coworkers push a JavaScript change that doesn't have the spaces in the right way, a GitHub action just fixes it for us automatically. Like, the wrong thing is caught and fixed immediately, and we don't spend any time thinking about it. And that's the way it should be. But one of the things we like to do at Pantheon is make it as easy as possible to send out those on-brand updates. If you're a large university, you're running literally thousands of websites, and you have a parent theme that has the correct shade of blue, and has the correct spacing, and has the correct font. You want some way to know, did our 1,000 sites actually pull in those updates? That's why we provide custom upstreams, because otherwise, between Eleanor and now we'll meet Nicholas, they may not be well equipped to answer that question, did all of the sites pull in the latest updates? Alone under the old library's crest, Nicholas made a temporary nest. Obsessed, he types faster. A man possessed. Distressed, he has now got space to ingest what blocks have done to beloved WordPress. 1 week removed from the relaunch, egressed from his soul to the live domain addressed, Nicholas now has time to learn, digest. With a MacBook Pro just under his chest, a drive to test, though not yet test-driven. Riveted, reacting with no action, his regard a 202 reaction. As React wrestles requests re-questioned. JSON responds with fast satisfaction. Jest tests return green. Exit code 0. This hero of WordPress rests. Yes, he rests. At this sunny summer hour, Nick feels blessed. Early morning shadows shrink in the west. The library's silence is then recessed as rubber shoes clap an important quest. Eleanor whisper shouts, plugin updates? 3 unapplied security updates? Nick waits. Don't take the bait. As if he did not know this was already on his plate. Did you read the details, Eleanor? Did you see the attack vectors do not apply to our site at all before you came and wrecked my perfect, quiet morning? Eleanor can't believe it. The hubris. Just apply the darn updates, Nicholas. Nick whisper shouts back with growing fervor. First, I need a working staging server. The updates apply fine on my machine, but I won't shortcut deployment hygiene. Excuses, excuses, thinks Eleanor as she says, well, I'll tweak markup some more. This story began with a missing link. Now we find the whole web team out of sync. How have we gotten to a place where these two developers don't have a clear picture in their head of how something as fundamental as applying security updates is supposed to go? Maybe the reason they don't have that common picture in their mind is because this is what the picture looks like for how you run one WordPress site, just the live environment, on AWS. I do not expect anyone to internalize this diagram. It's a big set of confusing boxes, especially at this resolution, somewhat out of focus. But yes, this is AWS's reference architecture for the best way to run WordPress at scale with failover databases and object caches and all the bells and whistles and cool. But I don't think Eleanor or Nicholas have time to think at this layer of detail. I don't have time to think at this layer of detail. I'm glad other people at Pantheon have thought at this layer of detail and just bake this in for everybody. But now we take that diagram and we zoom it into just the WordPress part. This here, another overly complex diagram that I'm about to fade in. This was the entirety of my 45-minute presentation last year, so I'm not expecting everyone to internalize this diagram. Suffice it to say, we began the web 34 years ago with developers like hand-coding HTML, and then WordPress and Drupal came in like 20 plus years ago, and then the iPhone came out, and then it's like, oh, we need CI servers to make our front-end SPA applications run faster, and oh, that's not fast enough, so we need a CDN, and then still it's not fast enough, and maybe we need like Node.js here. And there are 6 distinct defensible ways to think about what computer assembles the website, and there we could draw more permutations than 6 here. But you take any 2 professionals working in the website space and ask them, what is the best way to architect our servers to run a website best for security, best for scalability, best for cost, and they're going to gravitate to different corners of those architectures based on any number of factors. And that might lead you to a bad time. Let's now meet our systems administrator, Kelsey. Kels didn't race in the Gutenberg Dash. She was too busy, a one-woman stash of interdependent code, wrought in Bash. When anything breaks, she answers, not crass, calmly asks, have you tried clearing the cache? Teeming masses, many massive demands, yet still no team for this center of mass. Understaffed since Y2K didn't crash. Kelsey swiftly sips her tea, Earl Grey, hot, out of her own class of '99 mug. She's seen the decades since go in a flash. Flash. Just another trendy fad dispatched. She and janitor Jane empty trashes. Kelsey RMs some once applied patches, while Jane collects commencement gown sashes, swept up and then tossed out with the ashes. The tea splashes, and the moment passes. On her desk, a new ThinkPad dashingly sits atop a steely sticker, brashly reading simply, "This machine kills fascists." Her worries of rainbow table hashes and more interdepartmental clashes fly from her head when Nicholas smashes doors shouting, "The staging server crashes!" Kelsey doesn't look up. She plainly says, "I know." "Do you know why?" Nick asks and huffs. "No, I don't. I'll get to that when I'm done setting up this laptop and other stuff that I'll be bringing to Alexei, the new director of alumni giving." Nicholas nearly collapses. Perhaps this lapsed server outweighs Alexei's gaps. He is new. He might not last a semester. And these web devs do know how to pester. So she chooses the option that's least bad. "Hey, my name's Kelsey. Here's your new ThinkPad." Alexei looks up from crumpled Post-it notes. "Let me know if you need anything else," says Kels as she's already turned to leave. "Can you help me make a website?" says Alexei. Kelsey's heard this type of question before. So to avoid taking work she'll abhor, her answer should be bright and sound helpful. More than it might really be helpful. "Yes, I can. I'll provision a VM," Kelsey says. "Ubuntu or Debian?" "Never mind," says Alexei through tight lips. "I'll go on my own, and I'll just use Wix." So everybody in this story is frustrated with one another. How have we gotten to such a point as an industry? What is happening? I think what's happening is we're largely stuck in between this messy present where there are so many demands on the web team. I heard it earlier today. I hear it at every conference I go to. Do more with less. That sounds nice, but it is difficult to pull off. It is not reasonable to think you will satisfy every request from every stakeholder. And when teams try to do that, they perhaps can pull off that crunch time, never-ending relaunch. But one of the negative side effects of that can be the burning of relationships between people. It can make them feel like they don't have a strong enough grounding in the area that they are most comfortable in. So in the week since, each person on this team has gone and gravitated solo to the area they care about, be it the components in Storybook, be it the tests on the command line, be it just looking at all of the pages of content. I think a better way forward is to find a balance where no one person feels like doing their job alone requires 110% or more of their time. Because if any one person feels like their job requires 110% of their time, that leaves no time at all to collaborate with the person next to you. And I'd love to wave a magic wand, bring in a team like this and say hey, you gotta act as one team, one mission. It's not that simple. It takes time to turn around a culture like this. And I think, tactically, it often starts person to person. So I would hope that in a team like this, they could find work buddies, allies on a one-on-one basis. Perhaps Kelsey, that systems administrator, would say to Nicholas, "Let's straighten out our deployment pipeline, release faster, and get better uptime." Nicholas, with his newfound love of automated testing, might say we can automate manual clicking to stop regression while clocks are ticking. Get releases out the door faster with a clearer sense of their common mission. Going to the top of our pyramid here, our new director of alumni giving might have a fresh perspective, might see short-term thinking got us in this cluster. Luck is not enough for long-term luster. Our director of communications, who has been at the university to some degree her whole life, might say, you know what questions the president asks, so work backwards to make your list of tasks. And in the middle, we can clean up this UX mess. Success will follow from a simple user test. And finally, our front-end developer might know our updates to the donate form are void unless we test on an old, cheap Android. I feel like I've left off a team member here. At this conference, I and Kevin in the back, we've been asking who owns the website. And part of why we're asking that question is to bring this situation into people's minds. To some degree, the website is owned by the people who are responsible for the servers. To some degree, the website is owned by people responsible for the content. You could make an argument that any one of these people is responsible and owns the website. But I heard at least one answer today is, the visitors. The website visitors are the most important people in this whole equation. Those are the people we are trying to persuade to buy the football tickets or apply to become a freshman at the university, whatever the conversion is. I am glad that I at least ended with these two in the middle, focusing on, yes, we do have website visitors, and if our team isn't focused on the goal of our site and whether or not we're serving our visitors, we're going to have a bad time. All right, my time is up. Thanks so much, everyone. Are there any questions? Oh, I should say I did not use any AI in the writing of this. Someone asked me earlier, and no, I wrote this before ChatGPT existed. All right, thanks, everyone.